Hello Year 8, time for the next podcast on topic 2, and this is coasts. So the first thing we did in class was look at waves and tides. Now waves are caused by the wind. That is what causes a wave. When you see it, it's the wind, and the wind drags on the surface of the water. Now the length of water that the wind blows over is called a fetch. The length of distance that the wind blows over the water. Now, the stronger the wind is, or the longer it blows for in terms of time, or the longer the fetch is in distance, the larger the waves that you get. Now, waves can have two different forces. If they break in shallow water, as you might see when you go to the beach, the water that rushes up onto the sand is called swash. However, you see a wave and it goes back into the ocean. It's like a revolving cycle. The water rolling back into the sea is called backwash. Now, if the swash has more energy than the backwash, material, bits of sand and bits of rock, is carried onto the land and left there. So you get, for example, more rocks being dropped on the beach, and the beach gets bigger. Or if the backwash has more energy and it goes back into the sea stronger, sometimes the waves can eat at the land and drag pebbles and sand and mud and dirt and sediment away. So ultimately that is what swash and backwash are. And you can see the swash in this picture on this video. Then we looked at the tides. So even when the sea is calm and flat, the water level's always changing. Now what causes tides is the moon and its gravitational pull with us. So the tides can come in and out. They rise and they fall. When the tide is in, the sea is at its highest level, therefore it's called high tide. However, within maybe 6 or 7 hours, the tide can go all the way out, so the water is at its lowest level, therefore it's called low tide. Easy to remember, high tide is high water, low tide is low water. And the drop in sea level from high to low tide is called the tidal range. Then you answer some questions on that. In terms of lesson 2, what we did, we looked at key words to start off with and you set your homework. But ultimately, we looked at how the coast is changing. Some key words here that will come up in your exam at the end of the year. So the first one is erosion or erode. This is where the water, the waves, erode the coastline. They break it down. They destroy it. What also can happen is weathering, and the rock can be weathered. In other words, broken down by the weather, the rain, or even plants. Waves can also carry sediment away and move it, in other words, transport it or transportation. And when the waves haven't got that much energy, they can also drop bits of rock, otherwise known as depositing them or deposition. There are 4 types of erosion I showed you. Attrition, when the rocks hit against each other. Solution, when the rocks dissolve in the water, just like sugar does in my tea. Hydraulic action, when the rocks and water smashes, the sheer force smashes into the cliff face. And then abrasion, where they scrape and rub and grind against either the floor or themselves. Transportation, we looked at longshore drift and about how the swash can take in material at a 45-degree angle, and then backwash takes it straight back down. And overall, if you have an angle, then back, angle and back, longshore drift, the movement of material along the coast by waves, this can move sediment all the way along. And unless you have a defense or a fence like a groin blocking it, this will keep happening. And then deposition is simply when sediment is dropped and put somewhere else. So that can form spits and bars at the end of a coastline, depending on the wind and direction of the wind. We then looked at Haisborough, or Happisburgh as it's written, and I showed you about how this is where people are losing their houses and their businesses because the cliffs are being worn away so fast that sooner rather than later, with no defences, they're going to be in the sea. The main problem is that the cliffs are soft. They're made of soft rock, sand and clay, so it's easy to wear away. Obviously, rain has weathered the coastline. The sea erodes the cliffs, mainly in the winter when the waves are stronger. Because the waves are bigger and stronger, they can actually take big chunks of the cliffs. What you can do, though, and what Haisborough did, was have a line of big rocks called rock armour, and they were put there by the local council to basically take the brunt of the waves. The waves hit these rocks rather than the cliff, and therefore it doesn't stop erosion, but it slows it down considerably. Or you have those aforementioned groins, wooden fences that are stuck out into the sea that stop longshore drift. And then you have also revetments, wooden barriers that are parallel to these that, again, like the rock armour, are designed to slow erosion down, not stop it, because it's very, very hard to do that. And then the last lesson was about the war against the sea, and the fact that the sea is consistently 24/7, every minute, every second, is changing our landscape, especially around the coastline. It happens in the UK, it happens in Cyprus. A number of factors determine how quickly something disappears or how quickly the sea destroys the landscape. Like I've said before, the amount of defences a place has, or how much money a place has to stop this from happening, or what the rock is. Is it harder rock? Harder rock takes longer to erode than softer rock. But yes, are we having revetments? Are we having groins? It depends. Some reasons for that is that defences like revetments and groins and rock armour are very expensive, sometimes £2,500 per metre. You know, you're looking at 100,000 lira just for 1 metre of rock armour. And it doesn't stop it forever. You need to maintain this as well. Also, they don't last forever, and global warming is going to make sea levels rise. The problem's going to get a lot worse. But then you have local people who are desperate to try and make sure that their land is safe. And that is our topic of coasts. I hope this was useful. I'll see you for the next one.